Alright, hello everyone. I literally just got back in the door from seeing Sucker Punch. I have the cherry coke, there's still some in there from the film, and these are my first impressions. And I have a feeling, I do make mention that these are my first impressions because I have a feeling this is one of those films that you might take a while to get the full breadth of what's going on. It's a good thinker film. This is a good film if you're going to see with people. Uh, if you're going out like to a diner afterwards, it's a good conversation piece film. Now, with that said, with that the thinker stuff, it's not like an Inception thinker film. There's some deep stuff to it. You can see those elements in there, but it's not as academic as Inception, because that is going to be the film that you're going to be comparing it to, because of the layers of her mind and all that stuff. So, right off the bat, be prepared for comparisons to Inception. Uh, Now, I should also say, I like Zack Snyder's work, both as a storytelling director and as a visual style director. And right off the bat, I think everyone got that very clearly from the trailer. This is a very Zack Snyder visual film. And what I like about Zack Snyder films is he understands CGI. There's a lot of directors like Steven Sommers who will kind of ignore the fact that a lot of CGI looks like crap, and he tries to force it into the real world. You've got other directors, let's say like, who should I use? James Cameron, who can do great visual effects because they spend so much time on them. Not a lot of directors actually have that luxury when it comes to filming schedules. But what Snyder does is he uses stylization in to kind of give a wink to the audience going, yes, we know the CGI doesn't look as realistic, therefore we're not going to give you a realistic world to put yourselves in. And that does actually help with you as the viewer watching the film. It helps with that, the suspension of disbelief. You're not put into a real life world with really bad CGI characters running around all of a sudden. You're put into a hyper stylized world that is clearly different from our own in the way it's presented to us. And that as an audience, we are allowed to alleviate ourselves of when we do see the CGI, how it's not realistic. The other way you do it is kind of the Christopher Nolan thing, where you use so little CGI that you do hardly notice it because there's all this other live action stuff going on. So right there, I named the three directors, three different ways you can actually use CGI in a film. One, spend an incredible amount of time hammering it down, use so very little of it that the audience doesn't notice it, or the Zack Snyder method, stylize your world so the audience doesn't care about it because we've written such a huge check to suspension of disbelief, we don't care. And that's what this film does very well, especially because we get pulled into the more crazy stuff the more layers down we go in her mind. I should probably get to the plot here. The plot is, of course, pretty much summed up on the trailer. Girl gets sent into an insane asylum by her evil stepfather. Very classic. She is going to be lobotomized in a few days, and so she must think of a plan. Now, this part right here isn't a big spoiler, but the film starts off with basically a music montage of setting up her situation, and then pretty much cuts directly to her getting the lobotomy. Again, that's not a big spoiler, people. That's like the first 5 minutes, possibly less. And all of a sudden, it cuts into another layer of her mind, which is the nightclub, which is really it's a slightly stylized version of the insane asylum she is in. All the characters are basically playing the same characters, just playing more of a gangster nightclub type thing. So, the orderlies are now gangsters. The patients, because it's apparently a female institution, they're all the brothel hookers who are there against their will, trapped by the evil main orderly / gangster. And I don't want to get too much more into that yet, because that's going to get into a little spoiler territory, which we're going to get into later on in this review, but we want to say that to the end. So let's get into performances. I know it's kind of a jarring transition there. I really was impressed with Emily. Well, I don't know if I was overly impressed, but I was satisfied with Emily Browning's performance, who I don't even recognize from Ghost Ship. And I remember watching Ghost Ship, and she's certainly changed. All the other girls, they were okay performances. I'm not gonna overly bash them. They weren't mesmerizingly awesome. I'm sure there's people out there who are gonna say that it is the case. They are, of course, quite beautiful. Again, this is part of the stylization. Anyone that wants to complain about that stylization, I'll allow it. I especially like, though, Scott Glenn's character of the wise man, who he does. You saw the part in the trailer. If you don't stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. In every action setup, he gives like the little briefing of what they have to do, and he always comes up with one of those lines, the little random, piece of advice saying, I loved his character. Very fun character. They were all fairly fun character. We had Amber, who was basically always the pilot type in all of the action sequences, I guess what we can call them. I should explain the action sequences, and actually probably the style of the movie in general. This movie is very much in the same, I would say, early MTV. Yeah, early MTV is what what I'm getting here. The music part of music television. All these action scenes that you've seen in the trailer are actually her dancing. Yes. We don't actually ever see her dance, by the way. I guess we're supposed to assume it was a part of her dancing about in the same way you would fight. So this movie actually is translating interpretive dance for us. But as, of course, she's dancing, each one of these action sequences is actually based around a song. And Zack Snyder has really good taste in music, if you haven't noticed from Watchmen. The soundtrack to this film is awesome. It is not based at all in the 50s when this film takes place. It's fairly, 80s and 90s stuff. We have I forget half the songs right now because I'm bad with music names, but it has a really, really good soundtrack. Oh, Sweet Dreams. Sweet Dreams is like the first song in this movie that you'll start hearing as it sets up her situation with her stepfather, her mother dying, her stepfather realizing that the mother had left all of her wealth to the daughters, and all that stuff, and why she's sent to the insane asylum. That's all done to Sweet Dreams. Or Sweet Dreamers, I think. I think that's actually a song. I said I'm not good with song names. But, yeah, so basically, whenever she wants to get people to these items that she's supposed to get, because that's what the wise man tells her, in order to escape, she has to acquire 4 items and a 5th mysterious item. And she goes about and gathers these because she'll dance and distract the person that she's supposed to acquire the item from. And that is the action sequence we see. The action sequence is her dancing. And, of course, we see it as killing things. Which is basically, there's actually 3 main action sequences. All of them you saw in the trailer. I know I was hoping for like 1 or 2 that they didn't show in the trailers. But alas. Actually 4. We have, the fucking giant samurai fight. We have the World War I, which I really, I am ashamed. I hate that it was World War I, even though I love, films about that war. I like the style and all that. Because we fortunately do not have steampunk Nazis. They have steampunk Imperial Germans. It's not as cool as steampunk Nazis. Oh well. There is the castle scene, where they're fighting the dragon and they're chasing them in the crazy, plane. And of course, the train/robot fight sequence. And you might say there's somewhat of a 4th action or 5th action scene with them escaping from the nightclub / insane asylum. Which, by the way, for those of you that weren't paying attention, you'll notice that the insane asylum is actually in each of these films. The castle is actually the insane asylum dressed up as a castle. There's a big cathedral in the World War One scene. It looks like the giant, it looks like a broken down version of the insane asylum. Very interesting. Even the city that they're traveling to in the train kind of looks like this basic design of the insane asylum. And even the Japanese castle kind of is built in the same style as well. So you can kind of see where her world is revolving around. And and I really have to say this: I did spot the little nod and a wink to the Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. The propane tank bombs, they make a cameo appearance. Yes, they do. I'm not sure if anyone else caught that. Tell me if you did. But yeah, if you like those bombs that they had in Dawn of the Dead, they make a quick little cameo appearance in one of the action scenes. Now, here's the thing I'm going to get to, is the big spoilers. I'm going to talk about the ending. So if you really don't want the ending ruined for you, stop now. If you, A, are nervous because you read what the definition of sucker punch is, and you're one of those people that, let's say, don't like... You kind of want to know if an ending is going to be a really crappy ending before you even go see the movie, I guess you can stay tuned. Or, of course, if you've seen the film, stay tuned, because we'll get into the nice little discussion on the ending. So, 3, 2, 1, spoiler warnings are now in effect. Okay. The ending, for those of you that are wondering, is a bit of a sucker punch, but it's done in a way that I like. There are a lot of directors and writers that will make a grimdark ending, if you're familiar with that term. A pointlessly just dark stuff for dark's sake, nothing else. And in reality, that's a really poor narrative device. That's not why we listen to stories. It's only used for, to shock. Oh, I did not expect that. It's different. Unfortunately, now it doesn't really have that effect, a grimdark ending, because so many people have done grimdark endings. This film is not like that, although I'm sure some of you will be like that. Because, yes, Baby Doll gets her lobotomy. But what we find out is the way she went about, all the stuff she was doing in the nightclub, part of her brain, she was actually doing during her week at the insane asylum. All the characters who we thought were just projections in her mind were actually characters and girls she met in the insane asylum. And all the stuff she did, basically she did in the insane asylum, there was just slight changes at the fact that it was an asylum and not a nightclub. So what we're really seeing is a flashback for her. We even get to see, instead of she was dancing, she was running through the one Polish doctor who doesn't really have a Polish accent. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here. Somebody's going to say that the Carla Gunio, probably said that wrong, as Dr. Vera Gorski. Maybe that is an accurate Polish accent. I don't know. It sounds more Russian to me than Polish. But she has some role play out scenarios. So that's what she was doing instead of dancing, distracting people while she gets her stuff. So we're actually seeing a flashback, which means that Sweet Pea, played by Abigail Cornish, actually does get away. And that's why I'm liking this scenario. One, she dies, she gets lobotomized, but not only this is why I find it acceptable. She had set it up that A, she gets Sweet Pea out of the insane asylum, which she actually says, this actually isn't my story. Sweet Pea is actually the main character, and that's true. Sweet Pea actually has the character arcs. If you actually look, she has a big change, a big character. It just happens. This is basically a second-person narrative, which is really rare in a film, in any form of narrative, to have a second-person narrative. It's normally either a first person, where we just follow through the eyes of, the main character, or a third person, where we look from this kind of godlike, which is basically what most movies are. This is a rare second person, where we follow Sweet Pea around here. And this is going to be a long one. So what basically Baby Doll had done is she set up the scenario where she is able to get Sweet Pea out of the prison and in the slash brothel club, and she is able to basically get revenge on the people that set her in. The corrupt orderly, which is, also the orderly Blue. Basically, because of all the stuff she's done, she's got such attention that she knows that she got Sweet Pea out. She actually welcomes. She kind of realizes what's going to happen. That her plan and everything that was talking to her, as she puts them, she said to her angels, really talking to her, that the doctor gets so amazed by her final reactions to getting the lobotomy that he kind of reviews and starts asking Gorski, Dr. Gorski, about her, and he kind of asks, why did you sign off on this? And it turns out Gorski never signed off on it, and they kind of come to the conclusion that it was Blue who forged the signature. So the police bust in and grab Blue, and he immediately starts shouting out that the stepfather had paid him off to forge the signature and get her lobotomized. So in the end, she gets her revenge on all the people that wronged her, but at the same time, she got Sweet Pea out. That is her character name. We never were given another character name for her, for anyone that's staying and wondering. So even though it's kind of a sucker punch that she gets lobotomized, the ending is actually still hopeful. Sweet Pea gets actually picked up by Scott Glenn's wise man, who happens to now be a bus driver. Gets her, picking her up to take her back to her family, and all the people that wronged Baby Doll get their just deserves. They all get imprisoned and exposed. So it's kind of a happy ending. It's a bittersweet ending, and I don't mind that for a film. I normally hate this pointlessly grimdark endings. This I find acceptable, though. I normally hate it when directors are just doing dark for dark's sake, because it makes them think they're good. No, this is a film has a darkish ending, but one I can find acceptable, because all the rights have been righted. She did what she had to do to get her justice and to help others out, to help Sweet Pea out. So, I find it acceptable, and this review has gone on now for 17 minutes. And I actually probably could go through each and every one of these, the entire plot, but I'm not. It's getting late, and I want to post this. But here's one final thought, because I said the Inception thing earlier. Here's a debate for you to have on the internet. What would happen if the Inception team went into Baby Doll's mind? Would they be able to handle it? I have a feeling Baby Doll's mind would rip them apart, personally. I have a feeling I'm now going to go onto some internet forum and post that as a scenario and see what people do. That's it for me for now. Signing off. I'm not sure what the next film I'm going to see. I'll try to put out another video or something within a week. I don't know. I have a busy weekend. Signing off for now. See y'all later.